Hey y'all, insight number 2. So we're still in Mark chapter 14 and we're in verses 22 to 25. Now there are verses that go either side of this. I'm just focusing on those particular, 22, 23, 4. Can't count. Yeah, and this lines up with Genesis 15, which is Abraham making that covenant with God, or that covenant of grace with God. And this is then the instituting of how we will remember that covenant of grace every week, which is the sacrament. So let's have a read. So in verse 22 it says, "And as they did eat, Jesus took bread and blessed and brake and gave it to them." Again, break the bread, broke his body, and she broke that earlier that we talked about in insight number 1, broke the alabaster box. And he gave it to them and said, "Take, eat, this is my body." So not just, here, eat this. No, take this, so receive it, and then your choice. Do you take it in? Do you eat it? Or do you go, thanks, and put it down? So take, and then eat. So take, and then you have your choice. So take, eat, this is my body. So not literally his body, but symbolic of. And he then took the cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, and they all drank of it. And he said unto them, "This is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many. Verily I say unto you, I will drink no more of the fruit of the vine until that day that I drink it new in the kingdom of God." And even at this point, they're like, "Oh, okay, don't quite get it." Some of us sort of do, some of us don't a lot. And there's some really good things after that are talked about. But we're going to look at those things in John, but same conversations. And then there's some in there that you'll read that we're actually going to talk about next week, because that's in the John part of it. Good things to cover though. But anyway, so covenant of grace, again, hooks up with Genesis 15. So Jesus institutes the sacrament after reminding them of this covenant with Abraham. You can find that in Genesis 15. So he talks about that covenant in the verses previous, just talking about Passover, when they got ready for Passover. Now, Passover was that remembrance they had been having of the blood of the Lamb, or the blood of Christ. So in verse 22, note, he says, "Take, then eat," meaning accept, then take inside you. So accept the offering, and then decide what you're going to do. Making it part of you if you want to, which, yay, yes, I do, please. Verse 24, testament means here covenant. So when he says this New Testament, new covenant. So not New Testament as in like New Testament, like Bible. New Testament as in new, like what it is. So it's a covenant. It's meaning a covenant. And do you have deep gratitude for the sacrament and renewing your covenants? Renewing your testimony? Think about what Christ has done for you. Ponder on that. Just think about that. And you're like, well, I don't know what he does for me. And well, maybe start thinking of some things, because he's done a lot for you. And I'm not you, so I don't know what he's done for you and hasn't done for you. And a lot of people will look at what, like if you say, what has Christ done for you? And I have been one of these people, and just been like, well, he hasn't done a whole lot for me, actually. And yet, as I aged and looked back on it, I was like, well, actually he did. It just didn't look like I wanted. It didn't look like I expected it to. And it didn't look at that time like what everybody else had. And you know, when you're just in that phase of, I just want to be regular like everyone else. Except I wasn't born to be regular. I was born to stand out, to be loud, to be persistent, stubborn. Some of these things I need to temper. So that's why I feel a great affinity with Peter, because I think him and I would get on really well, but probably cause some trouble too. So we'll see. One day, maybe. One day. I think he tempered himself too a lot in his lifetime. But yeah, we're passionate about the things we believe in, and we will stand up for others. We are fiercely loyal. We have a lot in common. I have a lot in common with Peter. And you could say to Peter, what did Christ do for you? And he would say everything. But at the beginning, when he first met Christ, what did Christ do for you? And he's like, I don't know, just met the guy. So there's the difference. Again, it's relationship. When you get to know Christ, you will see what he's done for you. Hope that helps. But ponder on that. Every week when you're in the sacrament, have a ponder on that. Now, Brad Wilcox, he's currently in the Young Men's General Presidency. Wonderful, wonderful teacher and author. He said, Jesus doesn't make up the difference. Jesus makes all the difference. Grace is not about filling gaps, it is about filling us. And this is a covenant of grace. So the covenant of sacrament is a covenant of grace. And as I said, it ties into Genesis 15. And this is when, I'll briefly remind us, because we did talk about this last year, and you could probably go back on YouTube and find it. It's there if you really want to listen to it. This is when Jesus told Abraham, get one of each of these different animals in half, lay them out, because that's how they made a contract back then, because they didn't have the written word and lawyers and whatever. So they had some written word, but not like contracts today where you go into a car dealership, want to buy that car, here's this big finance contract that you never read, but you probably should. That didn't exist then, obviously. So this is the way they made those kind of contracts, and they were more like blood oaths, as in, if I don't keep up my end of the contract, you literally have the right to, put me in half as well, like these animals are. I feel bad for the animals, but it was just a way that they did things. And usually you would both walk through the middle of those animals. And that would be the sealing of the contract, or the signing of the contract, if you would now. Which gives a lot more gravitas and weight to a contract, whereas today I think we enter into too many of them without really giving it proper thought. And we really should give it some more weight, depending on what it is, of course. So at this point, so he waited all day for Christ to turn up, and he did, and it was through night that he saw this light go through, and that was the covenant. So the covenant of grace there, this is when it starts, is that simply because of Abraham's faith and his obedience, he didn't need to contract back. So this is a contract the Lord has with us, a covenant with us, and all we need to do is believe in him. And that covenant is in. So there's not a lot we have to do there. We don't have to do the things that he did. We don't have to be crucified. We don't have to go through the Garden of Gethsemane. He did that for us. And so it ties in here. This is the bigger picture of it. But yeah, that's why Brad Wilcox said, Jesus doesn't just make up the difference. Jesus Christ is the difference. Grace isn't about filling gaps. It's not about put all the rocks in and fill the gaps. No. It's about filling us. That's what grace does. It makes us who we are and to become. So it's really beautiful, the instituting of the sacrament, and it's definitely something you should look at as a family, and how you could maybe, and by family, I mean whatever your family looks like. How can you better sit in church or think about the sacrament on the days when you don't get to church? How can you have that at least once a week in your life where it's purposeful and meaningful to you? Where's the meditation on it? Where's the grounding in it? Where's the focus on it? And of course, when you're sitting in church with little kids, it's super hard, but persevere, because it pays off. It really does. And, how can you make that for your family? Talk with your little kids. If you're a single person, think about yourself. How can you do that? One of the ways quickly that I do, and I have mentioned this several times, is yes, I will think about think about what Christ has done for me, that especially that week, or even just that morning. If it's a really rough week, I'll be like, okay, what has he just done this morning? That'll work. But then I also go to and I can't show you because I'm recording on the phone, but I'll go to the Gospel Tools app and put names on the temple roll that I just feel need a prayer for them. So that's one way I do to focus more, because I'm easily distracted when I'm sitting in sacrament. So there's ways that we can improve. So maybe come up with some of those and think, how can you really embrace this covenant of grace? It's really cool. All right. Hold fire. We're going to head over to John. I'll see you there.